I'd like to introduce ProFaux's newest product called QuarryStone. This is a fully tintable white acrylic plaster with a fine aggregate that allows you to achieve a number of cut stones for the faux finisher. This product can be rolled on, it can be troweled, as well as used with other simple decorative tools. Today we're going to illustrate and demonstrate how we do this on a wall. We're going to use a series of basic tools and glazes to imitate a installed stone wall. So shall we get started? As we are starting with an unprimed surface, it would be a good idea to first apply a coat of a high adhesion diamond tooth acrylic primer. This is suitable for all non-porous as well as porous surfaces such as drywall or Formica. We're going to begin now by rolling the product on. This is fully tintable as well to light and mid-tone colors. This will supply the necessary adhesion so that we have a good bond between our substrate and our stone finish. Don't have to be too careful in how it's applied, as this will be covered with a texture. It has a fine particle in it that creates a good mechanical bond with whatever you apply on top of it. So it's really designed to go underneath textured plasters as opposed to smooth paints and glazes. Although some people do find that fine texture in combination with glazes makes a nice subtle finish, almost a suede-like finish. This will take anywhere from 20 minutes to 1 hour to dry before it can be recoated. You can generally test the surface with just the back of the hand to see if it's cool to the touch. If it's too cool, you know it's still trying to dry a bit. This can also be tinted close to your stone color, so there's no contrast to fight, but we'll let that dry up a bit. QuarryStone is also available in 4-gallon pails, and since it's fully tintable, I think we'll show you how we do that. Since this is an acrylic product, it can be tinted with anything that is water-based, including universal colorants. What I've done is taken a little bit of yellow oxide and raw umber in about equal amounts, and I'm going to put a small amount of that into a bit of QuarryStone which I've already decanted ahead of time. As this is quite powerful, only a small amount is needed. Alternatively, you can take latex paint, perhaps maybe 1 quart to 1 gallon or 1 pail, and mix up a nice tone. By tinting the material, you can see that we've changed it from white to a nice off-white, which makes it a little bit more stone-like and easier when it comes to coloring over it with either a glaze or powder wash. So just a small amount of color mixes in very readily. A drill mixer might be handier for a 4-gallon pail, a shaker if you're doing lots of gallons, but otherwise hand mixing it is fine. Alright, we've transferred the tinted QuarryStone to a roller pan to make it easier to apply, and we're going to use a normal nap roller to apply this to the surface. Of course, you can use a larger roller if you need to, but for the small wall section that we're doing, a 6-inch roller is adequate. We want to apply this in kind of a cross-hatch fashion, and quite liberally actually. There we go. The different levels will suggest a little bit of profiling like you would expect to get in a QuarryStone. And we have now, since we're working on a primed surface, a good amount of time to manipulate the material. We don't really have to rush through this. Depending on the temperature and air movement, you might have as much as 10 to 30 minutes to manipulate this before it dries. So we'll do the whole section here. That nice buff color that we created by adding the yellow oxide and raw umber is nice for lots of stones. You can experiment with different proportions, but the yellow oxide warms it up, and the coolness of the raw umber gives it kind of a dirty look, if you will, to suggest an old stone. Ah, there we go. Now we've applied the quarry stone with the roller, and we're about to knock it down. What we're looking at now is the texture after it's been rolled, and what we find is if you use a very light pressure with the roller, it creates these nice peaks which can then be knocked down with the knockdown tool, which we're going to demonstrate here next. What we're going to demonstrate next is the knockdown of the texture. I'm going to show you two different tools. One is the ProFaux knockdown tool. These are very inexpensive, like a polystyrene with rounded corners, and there's a slight curvature which we want to use with the corners out. And the other one is a magic trowel. This is readily available at some stores, and it's got a patented tip so it doesn't leave any tracking. So first, with the smaller knockdown tool, I'm going to demonstrate how this is used. It's always a good idea to hydrate the edge and keep it very clean so we don't leave any lines in the finish. It's used at a very shallow angle, and just the weight of the tool is all that's necessary to flatten that texture while it's this damp. You can go in different directions so that we don't pick up a noticeable direction of the knockdown. When you start or finish, it's good to lay it in gently and lift off gently. You want to avoid a steep angle, as that will create chatter in the finish. You can see then that this is resembling the kind of texture you might expect in a cut quarry stone. Now, as contractors like to move a little faster out of necessity, the larger magic trowel is sometimes useful on larger surfaces. As it's a heavier tool, you have to try to use an even lighter pressure. Perhaps the biggest secret is keeping the tool clean. So a damp sponge in one hand and the magic trowel in the other will give you a nice uniform texture. What's nice about the quarry stone too is if you get a little heavy-handed, you can always go back with the roller and repair the area. So it's not like you can't fix it as you go. Notice I'm using just a soft, like a serpentine motion too, which also hides the tooling. There we go. That's all that's necessary.